Now, it is by no means the first time that Herpa Wings is releasing American Airlines heritage livery aircraft. In the past, we've had 737-800s, and if memory serves me right, 1 or 2 years ago we had 2 A319s in heritage liveries. But these A319s were of course released by Herpa Wings just around the time or after they had been retired in real life, making the models fairly pointless. But now Herpa is coming with the A321s in the American Airlines heritage liveries, and those are flying around. So how have they done? That is what we want to find out, and we can do so thanks to our great partner here on the channel, Jumbolino Model, where you can get great models at reasonable prices from true collectors. So do check them out. You can find a link to them in the video description below. And with that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where we today, as mentioned, will take a closer look at an Airbus A321-200 of American Airlines. At the front of the box we have a cutout, so we can get a glimpse of the aircraft model inside. The back side of the box, not really inspiring, yet another cutout, but we can see that Herpa is trying to add a little bit of design to their boxes. It's difficult with this layout, but it is of course inspired by the livery itself, featuring the US Airways heritage livery. And we can also see that it is a limited edition. And here she is, the Airbus A321-200 of American Airlines in the US Airways heritage livery. These two airlines, of course, merged a couple of years ago. And with that, of course, I mean back in 2013. And now we see this lovely livery featured again on one of the American Airlines aircraft. Now, Herpa has also released a second A321 with a PSA heritage livery. I do also have that model and will review it later this year. So don't worry, that will also be featured here on the channel. But for now, we're featuring, or focusing rather, on this A321 with the US Airways heritage livery to see what it actually offers collectors. And as always, we start off with the tail section, where we on the vertical stabilizer have the US Airways branding or color scheme. The color scheme, of course, continued then on the fuselage. Here we then also find the flag of the United States of America. We have the full registration code of the aircraft and the internal registration code just underneath that. And towards the very tail of the aircraft, we do also have a bit of detailing around the APU exhaust. Now, on top of the fuselage, we do find Herpa has added a set dome, and while they are crazy inconsistent with those, on this occasion it actually looks like they've pretty much nailed down size and placement of that, so well done, Herpa. At the front of the aircraft and across the fuselage we then have, and that's the only discrepancy with this US Airways heritage livery, we don't find the US Airways branding or logo, but the American Airlines branding. I mean, technically we could perhaps talk about a second little discrepancy, given that US Airways, at least for a very long time, was a Star Alliance member, but of course around the time of merger with American Airlines, switched over to Oneworld, and we do also find a Oneworld logo next to the front cabin door, where we also find the aircraft type specification, and then underneath the cockpit windows we have a static board. Now, I was tempted to say that Herpa has skipped out on some details here at the front section of the fuselage, but actually when we look at the blue underbelly, there is another static port. So they have added the details that currently are the standard for Herpa Wings, but of course again here a few more markings here and there would really have benefited the model. The cockpit section itself then has the cockpit windows with the window wipers, but that's then also again, apart from the static port that I mentioned before, all that we are getting here. And I will never become a friend of the cockpit shape and nose shape from Herpa's A320 family aircraft models. For me, they're too inconsistent. There's too much change in how they look from the different angles. But what we can note here is that underneath the nose, we do again have the aircraft type specification. The engine nacelles have then been given the nice dark blue that we also find on the belly of the aircraft and have the silver leading edge printed on. And actually also, but we have to look really closely for it, the safety markings, they do kind of disappear a bit in the dark blue, but they are there. The physical detailing of the engines I think is overall pretty alright, especially here from the front. Very, very nice. You can see the engine fan blades. And then we can take a look at the wings as well, where we can see here on the top side we have the different flap slats and spoilers carved out really nicely. We have some different shades of grey for additional detailing. A look at the underside of the wings reveals more nice physical detailing, and while we on one side don't really have any printed details, on the other side we do find again the internal registration code printed on. The A321-200 in this case comes with the classic wingtip fences, which also have been given this nice dark blue color, and in addition to that we then also find the US Airways branding printed on. Then, of course, we also have the landing gear. That is the standard landing gear that Herpa uses for all their A320 family aircraft models. The main landing gear looking fine, but of course, again, the front landing gear being the main issue, being completely oversized, and as always, having no printed details. Now, there isn't much to show you here, but just for good order's sake, we can take a look at the belly of the aircraft and notice that, yeah, there is a hole in the fuselage, of course, for a stand that is not included with this aircraft model, but as there are no printed details to be destroyed in this case, I don't really mind. And then last but certainly not least, we do also have the doors to the cargo compartments printed on here at the back of the aircraft and also here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Airbus A321-200 of American Airlines in the US Airways Heritage livery from Herpa Wings in scale 1 to 500. And what can we say about this aircraft model? Look, the reality is I don't really have much negative to say about the aircraft model, but I also don't really have much positive to say. I mean, yes, we have the usual issue with the cockpit and nose shape, and we have the oversized front landing gear. Those are clearly drawbacks, but drawbacks with all A320 family aircraft models from Herpa Wings, not just this one. Personally, although it of course won't be an aircraft model that will match everybody's collection, but mainly those North American collectors, but as I say, personally, I really do like the US Airways livery, and therefore I think it's cool that it is featured on an aircraft model once again. When it comes to the print quality, I think Herpa has done well with this aircraft model. I haven't really noticed any print lines as such, and there aren't smudges, and the print overall seems to be pretty clean. So that is great. Of course, we don't have nearly as much detailing as we should have compared to the recommended retail price of Herpa Wings for this model, which is 40 euros. So yeah, it really underdelivers here. Positive, what we can highlight on the model is the fact that the set dome seems to, within margins, to be reasonably sized and actually matching pretty closely to what we see in real life. The fact that I have to highlight that just shows you that Herpa is crazy inconsistent with the set domes, and that definitely is not a given with their models. So ultimately, yeah, the model for me is just, it's not a bad model, don't get me wrong. I mean, it does many things fairly well, but I'm just still left with this feeling of it under-delivering. It's just not really exciting me, despite having a livery that I genuinely really like, and I was looking forward to the model overall. Now, it will work well with my North American setup, and I'm happy that Herpa has done the aircraft model, but once again, I'm just left with the feeling that this is not a 40 euro model, despite Herpa setting this as their recommended retail price. But what are your thoughts on this model? Let me know in the comments section below. And with that, we have reached the end of this episode. If you have enjoyed this video, then feel free to leave a like. If you're new around here, why not hit subscribe? And with that, thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.